What's up, y'all? It's another day, another project. Today's project, my 211 Wagon has been running rich, and with how expensive California gas is, we can't have that. So let's fix it. And how we're going to fix it is with a new pair of O2 sensors. Reason why I came to this conclusion that the O2 sensors are bad is because I have a Bluetooth OBD2 scanner. On my phone I was able to track the voltage of my O2 sensors. At idle, they're supposed to read 0.45 volts. Anything above that is rich, anything below that is lean. And at idle, my car is reading at 0.6, 0.7. So that's a good indicator that I need to replace these. To install them, rented this set of oxygen sensor socket set. Gonna be using the 22mm one. Whenever you do O2 sensors, it's a good idea to change spark plugs as well. The condition of the spark plug will also tell you if you're running rich or lean. If the top is completely black, then that means it's running rich. But FCP Euro says that these come pre-gapped, but we'll verify it with a gap tool. And while we're in there, we'll do an oil change as well. And always, I'll link all of these parts and everything down in the description below. Alright, we got the car and the quick jacks. Let me show you where we're going to be working. The spark plugs are going to be under each of these coil packs, 3 on this side, 3 on the other side. And the O2 sensor is going to be a little bit difficult to see, but they're just after the exhaust manifold. See if I can get a better shot of that. There we go, I think you can see it better. So we're going to be working down here, same on the other side. So, car is still at operating temperature. I'm going to try to let the exhaust manifolds cool down before I work on that. So we'll do an oil change first. Alright, real quick, we're under the car here. Just wanted to show you guys how you disconnect the O2 sensors. So here, underneath the transmission bell housing, you'll find a plate that has 4 connectors coming off of it. 2 of these are for upstream and 2 of them are for downstream. So the ones in the center here, you can see go out to the O2 sensors that are after the primary cats. And then if you look here on the sides, this is the connector that goes up to the upstream O2 sensor. This is the one that we want. Reason why there's 4 of them is that one goes before the cat, and that one's responsible for air-fuel ratio, and the ones downstream after the cat are for measuring the cat's performance. If these start throwing an error, if the downstream ones start throwing an error, that means that your cat might be failing and not reducing the emissions as well as it should. So, just wanted to show you guys where this is. I got the upstream O2 sensors free. I just wanted to show you guys how they connect. So here is the driver's side one, plugs into here, but it's retained by this clip here. That clip hugs either side of the connector, so you just spread the clip open. On the driver's side, there is a zip tie mount here, and then there's one slightly higher somewhere there, and then there is a sheet metal clip on the back of the head up there to keep it out of the steering linkage way, so it loops all the way up there and then back down. Similar thing on the passenger side. Same thing, it's clipped in down here, the clip that hugs the connector. Spread those 2 open. Up here, if you follow it, there is same sort of style clamps, clips things here. And I think that's it for this side. It might have the same thing on the passenger head or on top of the bell housing. Let's see if I can see where that goes. Looks like there's another clip up there. I think I could get that from the top. But then same thing, it loops all the way back down, and then you can see the O2 sensor right there. Alright, update. I found where the passenger side O2 sensor routes. So there's that O2 sensor that we're replacing, and if you follow that cable, you zoom in here, there's one more of those clips. Let me see if I get a shot on it. You can kind of see it back there. There it is. that last clip there. Alright, just got the driver's side O2 sensor out. I found the easiest way to do this is to take your O2 sensor socket and put it on the O2 sensor underneath the car. So if you're underneath the car, you can visually see the O2 sensor right here, and you're able to slip the socket over it. So do that from under the car, and then from above the car you could feed your hilariously long extension from the top, and then use a breaker bar and break it loose. Once it's broken loose, get back under the car, take the socket off, and then you can unthread it by hand. So I'm going to do the passenger side now, and then we can install the new ones. Alright, we're back under the car. Just wanted to show you guys how easy it is to access these O2 sensors from down here. This gap here between the cat and the, what is this? The front drive shaft, going to the front diff. You can snake your arm up here and then get the O2 sensor socket on your O2 sensor. And then from the top, you'll drop down your extension. Alright, we moved to the top of the engine, and if we look down here, you can kind of see the O2 sensor. Let me see if I can get my phone to focus down there. Right there. You can see the O2 sensor and the socket that I put on it. Now I can drop my extension down in there. There we go. And now I can put my breaker bar on here and then break it loose. Alright, I got my extension on there. Now we could lefty-loosey break this off. I think that worked. We'll drop back down there and see if I got it. Alright, we got both of the old O2 sensors out. We can compare them against the new one. Here's one of the old ones here. You can see how burnt up that is. That's normal wear and tear. So that's going to replace with this new one from Bosch, sent over from FCP Euro. Here you can see the threads already have some anti-seize already applied, so you don't have to add them yourself. And they changed the sheathing color to green. I don't know if you can see that. There you go. A fun green color. I'm a big fan of using colored stuff under the hood. Any mechanical, any electrical stuff. If it's colored, it's easy to see if it's damaged or if there's oil leaking somewhere. It's much easier to see than everything being black. So let's get these new ones in the car, and then we can move on to spark plugs. Alright, so for installing the new O2 sensors, I find it easiest to drop it in from the top of the engine bay. You're going to want to keep the little condom guy that comes with it to protect the anti-seize that's pre-installed on the threads, as well as not bonking the top of this or getting any oil on this. You don't want that. You need clean signal. So we'll drop it in from the top, and then we'll screw it in at the bottom. And this does have to turn quite a few rotations, so the cable's going to get all bound up. So if you could set the cable aside in a way that it won't get caught up on anything, that's probably the best thing to do. We're back under the car now. You can see the O2 sensor that I dropped in from the top. Still has a little cover on it. I'm gonna pull the cover off and thread it in by hand, and then once it's most of the way there, I'll sneak the O2 sensor socket back on it, drop the extension from the top, and then we can torque it down to spec. Alright, I've tightened the O2 sensor down as much as I could by hand. I have the O2 sensor socket. Take a shot every time I get those two mixed up. On the O2 sensor, drop my extension down, now we can torque it to spec. Torque spec on these guys is 50 Newton meters, or in freedom units, that's about 37 foot-pounds. There we go. Alright, we have both O2 sensors installed. As you can see, all the cables are still at the top of the engine. Now just to route the cables, it's just the opposite of how you got the old ones out. I'm not going to film that bit just because it's really hard to get a shot at the back of the engine, but it's just the exact reverse of what you did, with the exception that you need to add your two new zip ties that you cut up on the back of the passenger side. So I'm going to get those knocked out, and we'll do spark plugs. Alright, we're back into the car. I got all the cables routed and clipped back in. This side is zip tied in. Before we finalize and put the connectors on, I'm going to put a light coat of dielectric grease on the male plugs, so that way it's just easier to get it off the next time. Hopefully not anytime soon. Alright, finally moving on to spark plugs. These are supposedly gapped from factory to the correct spec. The correct spec apparently is between 0.07 and 0.08 millimeters. My gauge is in inches, so that translates to about 0.028 inches to 0.031 inches. So I'm going to check all 6 of these just to confirm. You never know with parts these days. I know Bosch is a good company, but a lot of bad parts coming out from factory. So it doesn't hurt to double check everything. Alright, these are all good. They're all at 0.03 to 0.031. You may have seen that I had to tap one of them. That one was out of spec by a thou, but these are good to go. Alright, home stretch. I did the 5 other spark plugs off camera because I wanted to save some time. I'm running out of daylight here. So we're working on this last cylinder here. Figured I'd walk you through the entire process. It's the same for all 6 of them. So each coil pack has 2 T30 bolts holding it in, and then a quick disconnect electrical connector. So 2 T30s out. Once you get the 2 bolts out, you take your flathead screwdriver, you'd push on the quick connect, the lock for the quick disconnect. There we go. Push down on the lock of the quick disconnect, and then you can pull the socket out. There we go. And then you just pull the coil plug off the spark plug. There we go. Coil plug out. Coil pack out. And then we take our 5/8 socket, 3/8 drive spark plug socket, drop it in there, take our 3/8 ratchet. It's supposed to be in here 37 foot-pounds, I believe. There we go. And there we go. Last spark plug out. I'll take you to the bench and we'll compare these two. So we're back at the bench. I've pulled all 6 of the spark plugs out, and we'll take a look at all of them and compare them to the brand new Bosch spark plug. They all look fairly similar. This one has a bit more oil on the threads than the others for some reason. They all look pretty much exactly like the one we just took out that I showed you. You kind of see a lot of white, I think, ash deposit on top on the electrode, and then what looks to be oil around the ring, so I'm not surprised that she's probably burning some oil. This is also the first time I've done spark plugs on this car since I've owned it. The records indicate that the spark plugs were done just before I bought it, so. But I'm not surprised that she would be burning some oil. She's hitting 160,000 miles pretty soon. Actually like 100 miles away from that. But yeah, it's a good thing I'm putting new plugs in. Any experts want to chime in as to what exactly is happening with this spark plug, let me know down below. Thanks. And here's the brand new one on the left and the old one on the right. So, happy to be putting in new plugs. And while we're at the bench, I figured I would show you guys how I'm prepping all of these spark plugs. Yeah, I need 2 things, the dielectric grease and a tiny bit of anti-seize. So first off, dielectric grease goes on the ceramic part of the spark plug. Don't need a ton, just enough to coat it. What this is going to do is that when the rubber boot of the coil pack goes on, it's not going to seize on there and make it easier to replace spark plugs in the future. So once that's on there, make sure the tip is clean. Always got to have a clean tip. Into the spark plug socket, clean off your threads. And this part might be a bit controversial. I've seen some people swear by never putting anti-seize on the threads or put just a tiny amount. I'm on the just a tiny amount camp. Like, that's a lot. But that's okay, because we come over here to our towel, we'll wipe it off. You can see we're getting a nice even coat on those middle threads there. You don't have to do all the threads. When it threads down, it spreads it out anyways, but this is ready to go in the car. Now, to put the new plug in, everything is basically reverse of how you got it out. Drop in your spark plug, screw it in hand tight. Alright, once your spark plug is in the spark plug hole at hand tight, you can go ahead and torque it down. The torque spec is... What the fuck is the torque spec? I just read it. Oh my god. The spec is 23 Newton meters or 17 foot-pounds. There we go. Pro tip, this is the first time this hasn't happened, but if your spark plug socket is stuck on your spark plug and every time you go to pull it, the extension pulls out, pro tip is to wiggle the extension around in circles as you're applying upward pressure so it can walk itself off the spark plug. Now that that's done, you can take your coil pack, add a little bit of dielectric grease around the end of it, and then pop it back on. Get your T30 bit with your 2 bolts. Run them down by hand. Torque spec on the bolt hole and coil pack down is, I believe, 9 Newton meters or 7 foot-pounds of torque. 7 is a pretty low torque number, so you're probably going to have an inch-pound torque wrench like I do. Conversion for that is 84 inch-pounds. And last step is to just plug the quick connector in. Hear a click once it's all the way down, and then another click when you put the lock back on. So, job done. And there you have it. We did new upstream O2 sensors, new spark plugs, and an oil change. The next step for me is to top up the oil, do a tire rotation, but this video is wrapped. Thanks for watching, hope you learned something, and I'll see you in the next one.